¿Sí? Ahora, bueno, que buenos días a todos y todas. Vamos a empezar la jornada, no demoro.
Good morning to you all. Did someone lose this thing? I'm going to keep it, but, well, welcome everybody.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. So I have the pleasure to kind of introduce, this second day. And I'm sure, you had a very nice evening yesterday in Madrid. It is already time to go to the second day. Hopefully it is not as long as the first. That was very dense, I must say. And we got many, many important insights about different aspects of minimum income schemes. So I would like first, of course, to thank our Spanish hosts and, of course, the OECD for all the contributions that have been made yesterday that go into areas that are very dear also to our interests in the Commission, as you know well. Of course, the integration, the coordination of services is something that has been for very long on the European agenda. And I think it is also at the heart of the 2008 Active Inclusion communication that you will remember. And of course, take-up and non-take-up is an area where there is more and more work. Of course, it is not, in a way, it is not an old area, but it is an area that is gaining more and more attention, and we are very grateful also for all the work that is being done in this respect, because we believe it is one of the key challenges that minimum income schemes, and not only minimum income schemes, if I may say, more broadly, social protection systems have to face, and they have maybe been a bit under examined up to now. So it's great to see all the attention that is put on this, and if I may say, from our perspective, to see all the energy that the Spanish authorities are putting into this area, are also showing, how serious the reform that is taking place, is, and how this is really going to be looked into all the different areas that maybe in a way, are not as much looked in other places, but should be looked as much. And today, so we will look into governance issues, which, of course, are also very, very key in the organization of minimum income schemes and systems. So with different presentations and looking into pilot projects, which is always very useful to get some more insights of new ways to look into this. And after that, we will have the so-called MINET group. So I guess all of you are very well aware of the MINET, which has been going since now 3 years. So it is essentially a mutual learning forum for member states to look into ways to exchange best practices and go towards learning from those in the different member states. So here we will have the occasion to come to the presentation of the very recent proposal for a council recommendation on minimum income, which I will not say much more because it is now also under discussion in the council. But I will stop there, and looking forward for the discussions today in the time that we still have together. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure having you here, second day. Yesterday it was we had a very fruitful discussion about policy itself, about policy of inclusion. We talked about cash transfers. We talked about the well-known problem of the non-take-up. And we talked about the way we had to perform inclusion itineraries. We talked about integration, how social services and labor had to be integrated. So we devoted the whole day basically to the policy itself. And I think as a follow-up today, we're going to be talking about the governance, which is very important. We've been talking about what, and now we have to talk about how, and how we are integrating different administrations and NGOs in proceeding. So I'd like to present the next session. I'd like the components of the next session to be with me, follow this session with me, come to this table, the desk. And we are going to have the representatives of an autonomous community, municipality, NGO, and a representative from the academic world. So if you come with me, please. Although it's an international conference, I would say next words in Spanish. El proyecto que tiene
The project that Spain is developing in this framework of resilience and recovery wants to introduce the way we do this inclusion project. So we have 4 representatives on the how do we do it, how do we do this governance, and we have 2 different territories. We do have a common autonomous community. We have the Councillor of Navarra, Carmen Maestu, which is here with us on the right. We also have Emilia Barroso, which is the Social Action General Directed representative from Sevilla, because we also work with the town halls. To my left, we have Carlos Susias, which is the president of EAPN Spain and EAPN Europe, as a representative of this third sector of social action. And we also have Luis Ayala, which is professor in economy and external consultant of the OECD. He's part of all of this Congress. And I'm going to give them the floor pretty soon to listen to them on how they see this work, this integration of the different agents we do have, how to make these policies work. So Carmen, the floor is yours. Good morning. First of all, I wanted to thank the Secretariat of Inclusion and Social Policies for inviting me to participate in these days. The government of Navarra, together with the Ministry of Social Inclusion, and thanks to the European funds, has deployed the AUNA project, which its objective is to implement faster managing projects on the MIS and IMV projects. And also, as you know, from this month, we do manage from the community of Navarra. This project, apart from this fast management, also wants to do an integrated model of activation for those people which are beneficiaries of the IMB and MIS. I'm going to remind you in a fast way how this project is structured, because yesterday I think you learned a little bit about it, but it has three stages. The first part has to do with the management system of the MIS and IMB in an on-site and online modalities, and we want to experiment a fast system that reduces red tape, bureaucracy, that through the work system ensure a better work that the services do in a primary care situation, and that also takes away some burden on red tape that it's not necessary, or make the access more difficult to the potential beneficiaries to these services, and that fill the work and their time with this unnecessary paperwork. A second part, or the second package, has to do with the integrated management to these people that have been valued through this a selecting system that, thanks to information and working with them in a very tailored way, we have given them training and information. They can start working again in the labor market with a very specific integration between the primary care services and employment services. In our community, we have this advantage that the employment policies depend on the Department of Social Rights, and this is something valuable in the departments. I must say sometimes the policies are very separated or categorized sometimes, and the last package or the last project of this AUNA project, it has to do with the labor activation towards employment, which is activated through the employment network of Navarra. And this is where I want to stop to talk about governance. All of the content of the project of these three packages, it's based on three pillars. The first one is a change in the management system of the MIB, guarantees the access in a very fast way to these people, to these aids, and then also the beneficiaries of these benefits to identify those who need more or are in a worse situation, achieves better results in its activation. And the last one is that the implication of the entrepreneurial sector gives more working opportunities to these people. So there are many aspects to these projects, and I'm going to focus on the governance side. This project wouldn't be possible without the intervention of all of these agents and these players: the government of Navarra, the Department of Social Work, the Ministry of Social Inclusion, the different entities from Navarra, the main town halls of our community, the different entities of the third sector that do participate in this confederation of entrepreneurs, and also the Public University of Navarra. From the government of Navarra, we also have the participation of the Directorate of Social Participation and all of the Navarra Labor Services, and we are also participating through a public foundation of social services, which is the ISAIN Foundation, which is we are using and leveraging all of the human value and human assets of all of the professionals that are working there, because a big part of this project has been thanks to them, thanks to their work and their technical support. This program is led by an internal commission that assumes all of the strategical leadership of this project, and it's formed by different representatives and agents, as I mentioned before, the Navarran Services Employment, the social services from Navarra, and these foundations, and also entities from the third sector. I'm going to talk a bit more about the package 3, which is the agreement we do have with the Confederation of Entrepreneurs from Navarra. It has more than 12,000 companies from Navarra. So it is a very strong ally for us to be able to deploy all of this third package that has to do with the labor integration of these people that receive all of these aids. And this package wants to reinforce the access to employment with the people we work with as a result of this triage system, with mechanisms that connect the companies with the people, with the recipients of the aids that are working in this integrated way. We do it through two tools. One is the list of collaborating companies in this project, and through the work of the Confederation of Entrepreneurs from Navarra, they actively search for work for these people. So we improve the offer and we identify the different opportunities and we ease the access to employment. So we do have two working intermediates, which organically and functionally work from this Confederation of Entrepreneurs. They do a continuous search of opportunities in these different companies, and they do identify the working demands from the entrepreneurial sector that may adapt to the profiles of the recipients who we're working with. There's an inter-agent commission integrated by representatives of these two people that work for the Confederation, but in a freelance way. We have the Public Confederation of Social Services and the Navarra working system to identify better opportunities that fit best to the recipients participating. The Confederation is in charge of doing this process of selecting the candidates of the people that participate in the project, and as a result of this process, the Confederation proposes 2 or 3 profiles to the companies. This integrated work with the Confederation also allows us to organize these active policies of the service of public work when it comes to service, to adapt the training of these people according to the needs that they do have in the companies, and always taking in account in a priority way which are the interests and the preferences of the people that participate in this project. The Confederation of Entrepreneurs also assists all of the companies that participate, managing and helping in all of the processes that has to do with the incentives that we have among our active policies of employment to be able to hire people which are in non-favorable situations. And the labor intermediates, they are coordinated with the primary care systems and the Navarra service of labor service. They do a companionship work with them. We share a system of formation, of coordination, and a system which is bidirectional, so that companies can send information about the job positions they do have available, and the foundation Ithain, which is the leader of this project, and the labor intermediates, they do have information about the profiles. We have a permanent communication with this internal commission of the project, and these are the elements that I would highlight from governance of this project AUNA, and the positive side of incorporating different agents from the companies, from outside the companies in this situation. To end up with, I would like to do a reflection that has to do with the people, the daily life of people. It's something global, but bureaucracy and red tape many times are divided into clusters. So being specialized in a vertical way, this is very highlighted, but when it comes to horizontal work, it's something which sometimes it's not taking in account. It's necessary to cross these borders And to do this, we need the dialogue, we need to listen, and we need to be heard to be able to break these barriers that deny these people to have this attention. So to end up with, AUNA is a project that beyond the European funds and the adjustments we need to do, we want it to be in our social services structure for the future. We will need to do some adjustments because due to this consequence, as a consequence of this assessment, which is guaranteed in this project, it will also require the long stay of some of these structures that we have conformed. There's also a strong component of training of professionals, of the social services workers, and also these administrative tasks into our companionship tasks, which are bigger for people. Thank you so much.
Buenos días a todos y a todas.
Good morning to all. Thank you so much to the General Secretariat, the Ministry of Inclusion, Social Security and Migration, and the European Commission for inviting Seville to participate in this panel. I won't be talking about the precise project here in Seville. Rather, as the General Secretary was saying, I believe it's more important to focus on what European fund, next generation European funds mean for Spain within the recovery, transformation and resilience plan. Let's not forget the close relationship that this has for boosting the growth of inclusion in Spain. This is a true opportunity for administrations and for citizenry to be able to intervene and participate under an umbrella of research formalization for better results, assessment, and political decision-making based on evidence. So now we are within the 8th leverage, the 27th component, and the 7th point, which is inclusive growth. The main goal would be to repair damages of the pandemic during 2020 and consecutive crisis for 2 years now. We are within this framework, so how absenteeism has grown in Seville due to this. But I won't be speaking about the concrete project, as I said. I believe it's important to reference the union that these projects have with the MIS and the importance of this scheme so that we can reach the social inclusion of people receiving this minimum salary. There are 2 pillars. Make it easier for people to get this salary, but also without forgetting the increase, right, that should come in terms of social inclusion. So just creating an economic benefit without it going with the full inclusion of the person and family, if this happens, we believe that we won't be reaching this true goal of the fund. Thus, among all of us, we need to reach this work so that we implement an integrative model that is both innovative and leads to social transformation. Because many times we focus on programs and more programs concerning a certain part of the population, and we assess the program in itself, and we don't really assess the real impact, its real impact within the transformation of the territory. I was therefore saying that governance is very important. We cannot forget that we have a co-management. So we have a multi-institution. Here, we are talking about European Union, the ministry, regions, town halls. And within these Spanish regions and town halls, we have different kinds of delegations and local governments. We also have multi-partners that include different sectors. Let's not forget this co-management. Also, that it's being directed towards very concrete collectives, so sectors of the populations that are quite unique, and we cannot forget the dimensions being reached within these projects. In some cases, we tackle an integrative and whole dimension, and others reach specifically a very social dimension, sometimes social, sometimes concerning households, employment, health. How can all of this be full and integrative? I understand that we need to speak about a comprehensive dimension. We cannot forget also the difference between territories. A program can be for a town hall, toward a region, or a third sector. How should we think about governance? Governance should have several groups, important groups. We cannot forget that every single group needs to have goals, components, functions, and should be perfectly planned in terms of meetings. How many times should they meet, in person or online? I believe there should be a sort of steering committee, a technical commission that should be the engine of the project itself and its operability. It should also have a department in charge of training whenever the project needs it, and this should be included into the governance. For this, we should have an international commission that surveys this training within governance. What I'm talking about is to establish a framework, establish an internal coordination so that the project is absolutely defined within a certain time period. The steering committee should exist before the project is defined, right? We cannot create governance while we run the project. The governance should already be established, pre-established within the design of the project itself. And every single group should have a very strictly defined job, right? So let me talk about certain examples. We should have a high-level steering committee in which all of the administrations, general directorates and third sector directorates should be, right, with clear roles defined, going from responsibility for the project. They should survey and supervise all of the project, making sure that all the broadcasting actions are well embedded, and it should boost know-how interchange. This is absolutely paramount in these European funds because at the end of the day, they're not only in charge of single projects, but they should interlink all of the knowledge created and generated between the different projects so that we can interchange knowledge and then all of us can become richer in knowledge. Of course, meetings should be defined, and in every single commission, we need to include experts at certain points so that the process can be followed with all the needed rigor. I have 1 minute and I'll be finished. On the other hand, we have the Technical Management Commission, and it should absolutely know the timeline in every single detail. It should know about objectives in every single phase of the project, and it should properly supervise thanks to follow-up reports that it should be sending to the steering committee. All of this should be perfectly explained, documented, justified, so that the different management reports help formalize all of the knowledge that we have reached. The technical committee, well, I mean, in our project concretely, we meet weekly. Maybe it's a little too much, but this is what we have planned in our case. To manage strategy, timeline, and objectives, and that we follow it closely. Concerning training groups and the International Commission, these are groups that are fundamental for us. All of them should participate only at certain points so that we do not forget the rigor of the project itself. The International Commission is of utmost importance to modernize and design the project assessment, and what's most important, transfer and scalability of the projects, because the projects are quite impressive. They're going to help administrations to hold up to rigor in terms of decision-making, political decision-making. But absolutely, what's most important is that the projects can't just go in and go out. We need to work throughout the project so that it becomes sustainable. This means that the project should be embedded, particularly in terms of methodology. Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you so much to the Ministry of Inclusion, Social Security, and Migration for having extended this kind invitation. And thank you so much for all the information and all of the actors or players that are working in this. And of course, the European Commission. I feel very happy to be in this room because 20 years ago, more or less, we reconstructed the EAPN, the European Anti-Poverty Network, here. Concerning regions and city halls, everyone knows what we were talking about, right? And we have in 8,000 NGOs in the EAPN here in Spain, including Ceuta and Melilla. And we are present in the European Union overall. I must say, by the way, that EAPN was born because the then president of the Commission asked the European entities to create a European platform to be able to speak about poverty and social inclusion. This is how EAPN Europe was created. It wasn't a grassroots movement, differently from other kinds of organizations. We are present in all candidate states, member states, and countries that belong to EFTA. We are the largest network of Europe in terms of social entities. As I have said before, I must highlight the importance of innovation happening thanks to decisions made in times of COVID. We do always say, yes, we are making decisions to correct and improve, save the situation created by COVID. However, they are also useful to save the destruction and ravages of the 2010 crisis. Because all of our problems are not due to COVID. Of course, COVID has increased these problems and made them obvious, but these problems came from before. So it is the moment to make decisions, national, European, regional decisions, into the good direction. Of course, we want more intensity, always. But truly, I believe all of these are good ideas. We have projects concerning non-take-up within EAPN. I would like to highlight a few elements concerning governance. Many of the things I will be speaking of have to do with the 14 projects that the different social bodies are implementing throughout Spain. What does this mean for us? First, we'll be able to systematize in a clearer manner, doing closer follow-up, and we will be able to observe the practices being embedded in certain collective atmospheres and situations. This can grant us very significant added value for us, social bodies, and administrations. We have focused in this project in a very precise manner. implemented in 14 social bodies and 4 town halls and 17 regions. And we have looked at it throughout several scopes. This means added responsibility. Let's delve into governance. At the end, they have asked me to talk about governance, but I cannot resist giving a tour here through our projects. The project was born from the state, of course. This is important because we talk about how social services are so important, its participation, of course, in employment policies. But of course, this comes from the MIS, which in the end is an income policy. So the arch is more overarching, shall we say, right? And this becomes more precise as we go towards the innermost layers. We are working on the Navarra civil projects, the ESPN, EAPN levels. At the end, the projects aren't ours because we need so many people, right? I mean, many players, so many players that need to participate in this project. We need to highlight this. We need to speak to every single regional government. In terms of non-take-up, we do need to participate and talk to all regions and Ceuta and Melilla. This means all institutions, all governments. But of course, this is then materialized in neighborhoods, in centers, in town halls. We have 400 nodes. We have in which we have to participate and also talk to all the social bodies that will be working in the environments themselves. So we need to talk to everyone. So this brings a thought. We start to assess what we are doing. And we need to talk about the university to assess directly and for follow-ups, but also with university experts so that we get their advice. At the state level, we have a permanent follow-up. Well, or we're getting literally married to the state with everything that comes with it. We fall in love and then we need to live the day-to-day, which is a little bit more complex, but we do have this intense relationship in terms of work and collaboration. And our focus is well established. Let's see what happens. It should definitely be interesting. Why am I linking all of these aspects? Because it is the cause of the MIS and its embedding. Many years ago, we had a minimum income system in Spain. But allow me to be sincere. It was an absolute chaos. We had 19 systems. We had NGOs, and we just went on with it however we could. Really, it was a mess. And so this scheme is going to allow us to be a little more clear-headed in what we do. We're going to improve as needed. But the MIS implementing was calling us to do our work differently. This is something I'd like to convey to all of the people, especially those that have invited us to this meeting. If we link this to insertion policies, employment policies as well, or pre-employment policies in some cases, if this should have full efficiency, we should start from MIS systems, protection systems that are truly efficient, that are unique, sufficient, and powerful. The stronger the protection system, the more efficiency we will have in integration processes, and we can abandon the protection system. We need to work in this direction. We need this not only in Spain, in which we need to improve, but throughout the European Union, we need MISs so that people can get fully activated within society. they don't really need to be linked. These are two different rights here, inclusion and minimum income. And when they work well, they feed off each other, which means higher efficiency when it comes to work. This is why, now that the European Commission has leveraged here on MIS, we will continue to fight to grow. It won't be that soon, but we are still demanding here the European directive on MIS, but a good recommendation can help so much. This is why we share here the opinion. We think we are going into the right direction. But of course, I was asked to speak on governance, not only in Spain, but the MIS recommendations coming from the European Commission. Of course, let's optimize the system. Let's not stay in the recommendations done 5 years ago. We have a good system of governance, follow-up, assessment. Let's make the system become closer here. This could help us substantially and improve governance elements. Let's finally pour over governance. Let's talk about a very important element, which concerns MIS in the European Union and how we select people that should receive this MIS and participate in all these programs. We absolutely need to know what people think, how they're impacted by these programs, and what they advise or suggest to improve systems and all the work we're doing with them. Most of the bodies in these projects work directly with the people involved. Of course, we do it from non-take-up as well and directly. We don't have that much experience in this participation of people in poverty situations. We believe that throughout all sectors, we need contrasted and cross-cutting opinions of the people that we directly help. Because yes, technicians, regions, social entities, town halls, of course, need this information to know whether we're doing a good job. But what's most important is the person being directly affected. We need to do this with all of the people and all of the players. This is absolutely important so that we evolve quicker. I don't have much else to say. Concerning the MINET network and the EAPN, the national levels, the ministries, etc., all of these relationships are very important. The MINET network is so important. It can achieve so much. So we ask you to gather efforts so that we reach this recommendation to implement a very powerful network of MIS, a logical one that ends up being so useful. We started speaking about this in 1992 already, and we can advance so much more. The EAPN here, the European Anti-Poverty Network, was created long ago, and of course we extend our invitation to collaborate with all of you. It is so important to have a very good governance. And this will help us for better inclusion policies, which at the end concern economic intelligence, but also we can improve our demographic data. Thank you so much.
Bien, buenos días.
Good morning. I was asked to speak in English. Despite my very unique accent, it's true that sometimes I will be speaking in English.
To participate in this session, well, I will try to close it with a few brief comments on what has been developed in the area of inclusion policies here in Spain from a research or, let's say, an academic perspective. And basically, I would like to talk about three different things. Firstly, where do we come from in terms of evidence-based approaches to policy making here in Spain in social inclusion policies? Secondly, I would like to highlight what this new way of developing the inclusion or social itineraries projects in Spain has meant from a research perspective. And finally, I would like to make some recommendations to continue advancing in this very promising field of evidence-based social policy. So first, where do we come from? Well, I guess I'm not saying anything new if I state that there is a common understanding among policymakers, practitioners, and scholars that the lack of evidence and the insufficient capacity of governments to use data constrain opportunities to develop adequate social policy responses. And they are also a key reason why many of these policies fail to induce significant changes in poverty or not enough advances in social inclusion. But we know that in practice there are large benefits of deploying evidence-based approaches to policy making in this field. Our reality, however, is that despite the efforts of some decision makers at the central government, or at the regional level, or even when we talk about stakeholders, the evidence on optimal practices in social inclusion in Spain is hindered by a range of factors, including insufficient capacities to carry out analysis and production of data in a comprehensive and timely manner, and also insufficient coordination between and among data producers and data users. Well, we know which are the main challenges regarding minimum income programs in Spain and regarding social inclusion. We know the benefit levels are too low to promote economic independence. The coverage of the vulnerable households is still limited. The levels of the cap, as we saw yesterday, are still low. There are coordination problems between the different levels of administrations involved. And at the end, we have a limited knowledge about the best strategies for social inclusion itineraries. So we need evidence. And to get that evidence, obviously, we need data. A necessary condition for producing evidence is getting good data. I must say that having data is not in itself an ultimate goal. It's a means, you know. We need to talk about a larger process. Obviously, the first step is getting data, but the second step is producing evidence, and the transition from the first to the second step is not always immediate. And there is a third step that is informing policy and decision-making. And I am afraid that until very recently, our performance was low in the three steps I have just mentioned. Well, novelty of the approach. Well, you know, the experience of the regional minimum incomes in Spain, although it allowed an interesting learning process, was not enough to identify which are the best strategies for promoting social inclusion in our country. You know? And right now, as it has been previously said, more than 30 new inclusion itineraries have been developed on an experimental basis and are being evaluated. No? The main challenge is how to translate these pilot projects into evidence for decision making, because this transformation requires a number of things. First, we need similar procedures for each project. We need similar information systems. Second, we need, this is the discussion in this table, no? To adequately organize the diversity of administrations and social agents involved. And the hardest one, we need to generate through these trials evidence for the development of new inclusion itineraries. And this is undoubtedly a very, very big challenge from any perspective that we can use, even the academic one, no? Because there is almost no tradition of evidence-oriented data collection in social inclusion policies in our countries. You know, the very concept of randomized control trials was unknown in practice for many of the administrations and social agents involved. And I must point out the importance of my own environment, the academia, in this generation of evidence. No? This is something very new or a radical change with respect to previous social policies. No? The ministry decided to choose an institution of proven qualifications such as CENFI to conduct research on social inclusion projects, to develop this new methodology with strong analytical powers. And agreements were signed for the development of these randomized control trials. You know, the idea is to define new and innovative social inclusion itinerary projects involving various public administration and third sector entities. This is very innovative in practice, and we have great expectations with the possible results. We need that this can be a very important source to create new evidence. Perhaps I should say that the agreements were limited to a single research group. I know this decision was reasonable given the deadlines imposed by the European Commission, but in the future it could be important or advisable to open calls for other groups also qualify in this field. But in any case, the most important point is that this way of producing evidence is undoubtedly a very important step forward in establishing a culture of evidence-based social policies in Spain. And let me conclude with some recommendations, because the challenge now is moving forward, no? So I'd like to point to a number of recommendations to get more out of this effort. The first one is providing a clearer definition of targets on one side and indicators on the other side. I think that further progress can still be made on both sides. Second, making further progress in defining an integrated and coordinated approach that can be used also in other social policies. Third, ensuring high quality of data and considering opening access to data. This is very important. Policymakers at all levels of governance should consider making various types of data publicly available. You know, this is a way to verify the accuracy and relevance of data and to test the reliability of this new evidence. Fourth, building on this momentum, this very interesting momentum, I encourage you to create long-term partnerships between and among municipalities, national offices, private sector organizations, in order to increase this capacity to produce data and to generate evidence. Fifth, my fifth recommendation is to make decision-making more forward-looking. I encourage you also to use micro-simulation models in your assessments of these new itineraries. And my last recommendation is to improve communication in two different senses. First, to share knowledge and to promote the exchange of best practices like we are doing today, but also I encourage you, all policymakers and the NGOs to communicate these policy initiatives to the general public in a very clear and transparent manner. We know that there are barriers, but I encourage you to make the best possible use of the available tools to remove as much as possible the current social, cultural and economic barriers to get this message to be known by most of the population. And this is all. Thank you.
Quiero agradecer
I want to thank all my colleagues for this session about governance, and I want to be very fast on wrapping up this table. And I want to highlight two ideas towards this project of inclusion paths we do have in the ministry. The first one, it's innovative, and the second one is consolidated. And I want to transmit the idea of consolidation, because we are in this table in which many people has mentioned this policy of inclusion from different levels of administration, from entities of the third sector with different nuances. So it's important to think that all of this has a main aim, and I want to tell you about how this was born. We were mentioning the component 3 about the investment number 7. And the Ministry of Inclusion sat down with the Commission to say, okay, we want a country which is more innovative when it comes to social policies. We commit ourselves. And how do we commit? Having a lab of social policies. But when you do have some aims and some goals that will be accomplished by the first quarter of 2023, the how to do this is important, because we do have many people, many workers to achieve this goal. You can tell how difficult it was. Emilia said before, how do we do this? With committees, with instructors. So when we were clear about this inclusion objective, we translated this, we mentioned this, so to receive projects, to receive these applicants from the third sector, from the town halls, from the region. So we do have the first objective. So what mechanisms do we have? Each project has a follow-up commission. So all of this structure, it's very strong because we must ensure that all of these participants work in the same direction, same page. So this is the address. This is what we've been addressing since the first moment. So apart from the results, we do get the success when it comes to social policies of this project is that there is a project with these initial goals and this process of generating structures and ensuring that we see the results. So the idea of this strong structure, I want it to be clear in this scenario because we are moving into scenarios and with different goals with these different agents or players. And we do also incorporate in terms of innovation the fact that we are going to do public policies based on evidence, based on data, and that's what we're generating. So this is the first idea for the next session, which is about an innovation project that's been financed by different tools from the European Commission. And later we will go upstairs to see in a very relaxed way as we take our coffee. We are going to see the progress of different projects because we have some examples of these 34 projects. Thank you to all.
Good morning. Shall we continue then? If some of you might know me, that I'm Katalin Satmari from the European Commission, from DG Employment, and I'm the one behind the signature of Minet team. Most of the time, whenever I'm communicating with you, then it's or the Minet team communicates with you. It's me who drafts the messages. We are a bit delayed now with the program, so I will ask very soon the next speakers to speed up a little bit and to catch up with the timing. But I would like to say a few words that in this next session we are going to present you some projects, 3 projects which has been financed by the Employment and Social Innovation Fund. It's direct funding from the European Commission, and some time ago we felt that the integrated approach of service provision is a very important aspect of the implementation of the active inclusion recommendation. So therefore one of our calls was focusing on this integrated service delivery, and we invited the representatives, local representatives from all over in Europe to establish and test innovative integrated interventions aiming at the inclusion of the most vulnerable people. We selected 9 projects under this call, and we invited a couple of them who are most closest to the discussion of yesterday about take-up and outreach of those who are at most vulnerable positions. So first of all, I would invite Matthias to speak on behalf of our German project, and then Alessio, sorry, I don't know the faces. Alessio from Italy, who will introduce our Articulate project running in Italy. And finally, we also have a Spanish project selected under this easy call from Asturias, and I will invite Begoña to present their activities. These projects are ongoing for the moment, so perhaps they will not be able to tell you more about the results because they are just running, they are in the middle of the implementation, but hopefully at some later stage for the Minet meeting we can also come back with the same projects, or we can also introduce other projects under this call which are very relevant to our activities in Minet. So Matthias, the floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation. I will rush through our project, and I just want to link back to one thing Carlos Sousa said. I think this was a very important point, that minimum income and inclusion are 2 rights, but the challenge is to strengthen the links between these 2 strands of support and of building an inclusive society. And in some respect, our project is just about this, strengthening the links between minimum income and inclusion. The CRIS project is a consortium of 5 partners. I'm from Germany, from the city of Offenbach, close to Frankfurt, and the municipal job center, and we have 3 organizations from Slovakia and 2 organizations from Budapest within our consortium. You'll see it on the screen. And our common aim is to address groups of particular vulnerability in the labor market, to develop and further develop integrated services by redesign, by implementing innovative new ideas. And first of all, it is about applying a holistic view on the clients, and I think this is something new for some service providers at least. And it's also not only about the individual, but to see the individual in its context, the family, the social environment, a concrete living situation. I think this is what we aim at in our projects. The target groups are vary among the partners of our consortium. In Offenbach, it's mainly immigrants, recent arrivals of immigrants from Romania and Bulgaria. A number of them, we do not register them separately, so then for this reason we cannot give exact numbers, but we know that a big number of those immigrants belong to the Roma community, which is of particular vulnerability as well in Germany. In Budapest, it's households at risk of poverty, recipients of housing assistance, and it's also about the take-up of benefits, of housing benefits, but also of services. It's not only the take-up of benefits, it's also the take-up of services, which has proved to be a challenge in all our regions. And in Slovakia, it's a bit similar to Offenbach. It's addressing a marginalized group. Very many among them belong to the Roma community. To come to the resources we dispose of in Germany, as you may know, we have a quite well developed inclusive system of basic income, of basic protections, the SGB II scheme with the job centers as integrated agencies of service delivery, not only benefits, but also employment services, social services, and also in some respect at least educational services. In Budapest, we have as a main resource a very well-developed neighborhood development practices and policies, and awareness of the social space of the neighborhood, which is particularly the 7th district of the city of Budapest. And in the Slovak Republic, our partners have a very well-developed knowledge and very well-developed competencies in the work with ethnic minorities. And we, in Offenbach, for instance, we try to capitalize on this and to transfer some of this knowledge into our own practices. The objectives for our partners, there are very many commonalities. I come back to this a bit later. In Germany, it is mainly the implementation of a systemic counseling approach, which is not only addressing the individual, but families and larger social units. In Budapest, it's to relate social work for the most disadvantaged with employment services, and also implement a systemic approach, build capacities to apply this systemic approach. And in the Slovak Republic, the main challenge is to overcome the fragmentation which is still there between different strands of service delivery, employment services, social services, and social work, and also the fragmentation between public and private providers and NGOs during the project. Just to give you an image of our conceptual approach, we have this holistic approach we aim at has different elements, different strands. Culture-sensitive counseling is one of these. Case management with a focus, of course, on employment, not a general focus, but a focus on employment. Systemic coaching, addressing the family, and also mobilize the potential which we can very often find within families and the social context of our clients. And as a sort of a transversal issue, we try to improve service quality by applying specific methods of co-production. So this is taking in the clients as sort of co-designer and co-managers of the support processes, which is quite challenging. It is easy said, but in practice it's quite challenging, and we want to develop methodologies which really work to do this as an element to improve the quality of services. So here you see the different tasks of the partners. I won't go into that in detail, but just to conclude with the achievements so far, as was said, we are still in the process of implementing these projects, so we cannot present some final results, but we have some intermediate results. We have all projects are fully established, which is also easier said than realized, as you may know. You're all rooted in practice. We have started to implement the co-production methodology. We had an extensive training of our staff, a joint training of staff from all our partners together. And we have set up 3 co-production labs in Offenbach, developing a service model for the Roma community in cooperation with the association of the Roma people in our region and other partners as well. In Budapest, in the 7th district, the lab aims at developing tools to improve the take-up of housing grants and housing services, and also the take-up of social services. I think that's also important, because it's very often missing that people do not take up the social services provided. And in Slovakia, the lab is aiming at improving the approach for employment services for Roma community. And one experimental element of the project is that the public employment agency has contracted out for the first time some elementary services to an NGO, to a private provider. This is also an issue of experimentation in our project. So that's for the CRIS project, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Matthias. And then, as Mila already said, that after this session outside or upstairs, you can get more familiar. If you have questions to the projects, then you can approach the project promoters and ask or engage in a little discussion with them. Alessio, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, thank you. Fantastic. Okay. It's a little bit tricky. Hi everyone, I'm Alessio Arcius and I'm from Italy. I represent the project Reticulate project, and with me there is my colleague Marzio Mori, that you can see over there, and he's the bigger expert. And I want to present our project that it is called Reticulate. In our project I don't present all the partners because there are really a lot of them, and you can see in the brief summaries like this one that you have in your card. And our project partner, for example, but consider INPS, that is the Italian National Institute for Social Security, municipalities, Institute of Research, and also the European social networks. I'll start my presentation. Just a moment. Like elevator music for waiting. Excited? No, I'm not excited, but I'm excited if this is the question. Here we are. Very good. Thank you. Okay, I see in the...
It's not on the screen.
Yes, we love it. Yes, amazing. Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you. I will start now. I want to start with the first question, what we are doing and what we want to do. First thing first, we want to do a one-stop shop approach and want to integrate it in our system. So we want to create a system in which there is only one point of access for all our beneficiaries and target group, and so we can arrive in one place and find answers for all their needs. This is the idea, is to in some way put together a fragmentation system about public and private sector, and this is really a challenge as regards Italy, and because sometimes you will have a lot of places where to go, and it's very difficult for some kind of beneficiary to follow all the path that you have created. So to do this, what we want to do, to strengthen the function of social service as regards the citizens' income. We have a basic income. I have a slide for this, but I will go fast because I know I have little time. But we have a basic income also in Italy, and it is defined as an essential level of assistance. So it is by the law an important part, and it is integrated in 2019. Sorry. We have the ideas of to put the third sector network at the center of our co-designing process at local level for regarding the policies, and to make them an important actor about to structure our policies and to create what is we call multidisciplinary teams in which you could find more professional that can answer your necessity. In this part, we want also to make together social services, employment services, and health services. The last part is the difficult one. I don't know if it is the same things in your region, but in ours is the difficult one. And also we want to give more importance to the local zone central government, because the zone level is like the highest one before municipality and the lowest one before, after region, like this one. That is the region Tuscan, and we work in 4th zone for the experimentation one-stop shop. You will see that they are bigger than the municipalities, but lower than the region itself. Here there is a slide in which I present the citizen income like the LEP, a social assistance level, and it is created in 2019, as I said. But let's go to see who we are referring to. We are referring to homeless people. This is a target that is the farthest from the services, but also received less support from this one. And also to poor families with minor, who usually receive finance supports, but lack for any other kind of services or other aid that is very important for them. For example, the first thing that I have in mind is kindergarten, for example, to meet needs of consulate, domestic and labor necessary. In particular, this project also refers to family with migrant background that have a particular complex situation because they do not have any social capital or sometimes have also some kind of stigmas, and no one wants stigma, and this is important. What is the main barrier to access the services and to arrive to fulfill your necessity and to have an answer to your needs? I have really do a sum up incredible because we have a little time and our research is only have only 4 points, and I make it equal to the both of them, but they are, you know, more specifically we can talk outside or later we can do questions. But the first 4 points is individual reason. I don't trust the institution or they don't answer my needs in particular, so I don't want to come with you because I don't trust you. For example, for a family, you only take care of need of individual people and you don't see me as a whole. So it's very important for this. Or homeless people, you don't hear me, you don't understand what I need to do, what with my need, and you don't give me time, enough time to explain myself. Communication barrier, I think yesterday we speak about it, today we speak about it. The important to be known, I'm here, you are there, we have to speak each other, speak the same language, you have to listen my message, I have to listen your message and have share a language. But also I have to know where you are and you know where I am. Administrative barrier, for this is the biggest one. Bureaucracy, first things first. Timing, if I need something now, I need it now, not from 3 months from now. And also and I don't need a standard responses. I have different shape, I want different answers. Because if you give me the same things, I don't fit in it. And also there is cultural barrier, I have just said, no one wants stigma, neither I, not you, not everyone. And as regard the family, also there is a physical barrier that is very important, because if you live in some place that is not easy to access to a city, to your office or something like that, if I not have my car or my way to move, I can't reach you. So it is useless for me to have this kind of right. So what is our idea? It's to create these things. I have really put all together in here. It is a hub with spoke and in which you could arrive in a place that could be a mobile unit or physical place in stand office. But you will arrive with social and employment service that answer your needs and have a real huge network of services that help you as social or employment service and health benefit service. So you have just understand that these 2 pillars very important in here. Know each other, collaboration and cooperation. But also first thing first, I have to be accessible. So for example, I take only 4 pillars to be really short. I have first thing first, you have to be accessible, as I said before. If I can get you, you are useless, so for me. And the second things, you have to give me enough time to explain myself. You have to create a relation with your beneficiaries, and you have to understand their need, but especially not only like what they need, but also when they need it. And you have to adapt yourself to their needs, and with that network and with collaboration with third sector and other kind of services, you could do that. But if you don't do this, you are far from me, I can get you, ciao ciao. And and other things is collaboration. It's very important that you will have a shared protocol, shared way to work. I have to know how the employment services work if I'm a social assistant, because I can get your work easier, and you can get mine easier, and we could work together. Or maybe I know what service you could provide and help my beneficiaries, so I can help you also. We stay together, we work together. But last one, I take this as last, but it's not last. Last is not least, but last but not least, it is community. We want to create a community center. At this point when we create it, we're still in the early phase, so we are going to implement things during time. We have some years, I say. Yes, fantastic. And we have to create a community center, so where people do not go only for specific category of people, but the whole citizen can go there. That's very important for us to make clear this thing, because as we say before, you don't want stigma, no one wants it, and so it's very important for us. And also we want to develop a new role from social services. Oh, it's okay. Sorry. Better. Ooh. Too much. I'm to be scared. Okay. Sorry, we want to develop also a new role for social service. Stop being like, I'm here, come to me. I'm here, I came to you. And also to be more proactive, more in promotion, like I let you know that I'm here, and more in to go to the place like that. So we have one point access, but with the network we arrive everywhere. This is the ideas of this kind of things. And also we want to confront housing issues and also make people to as regarding the homeless people, as for example, we want to invest in make for private sector the possibility to arrive in this sector and to offer their house also to social housing. And also we want to develop a context, I call it like this middle place that is not like a real place, physically one, but with to aim to get people into labor market, but not in the way that you have to get a job and blah blah blah, like as well. Because we know there are yesterday, I don't remember very well what the presentation say, but there is also some kind of beneficiary that have problem to get there are not people who can get involved in the normal labor market, but they have also an important right to dignified employment, and this is our target. We have to create this kind of place where we could help them, and not only with formation and creating competence or training, but also with motivation and creating relations. Again, relation and link is the base and the most important thing that we want to value in this. And for last things, I also want to say that we need for do things stable resources. I don't want to say that it's only financial aid, but also want to say that we need humankind, we need human resources, people who work and who really are training on these things and can create network, because we know network is created by the institution, but the institution is done by people. So thank you very much for your attention, and we are here. So any question is fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alessio. It was really exciting, and I'm very, very curious about the result as well as the other projects. So now I will, since we are really running late, I will invite Begone to tell us about their project in Spain.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank to the Commission for the opportunity to be here, as well for the Minute group, and to the EASI Fund just to trust in our project, and as well in the National Ministry for hosting us today and for being part of the SHADE2 project, as they are our partners. Lucky you, I'm going to turn it into Spanish because they told me I can do it in the language that I feel more comfortable, so I'm going to save you my accents.
Okay. I'm going to try to be brief, because I understand I am the only thing between coffee and this, so I know you want to leave. My presentation was very long, but okay, I'm going to improvise because we do not have time for so many information. I'm going to be in the work coffee, so if you do have questions, you can come to me, you can ask whatever you need to ask. And we are working, we have a web page we will going to deploy in the following weeks. So the commission can make our presentation, can send our presentation. You can see in this web page the main details and information about our project. To be super brief, I'm going to give you some hints on what's the project. First, context. So for you to understand, like, we didn't wake up one morning and we said, let's do a European project. There was a very important background to be deploying this action. So first of all, we wanted to see which kind of people we had to work with and also the results we expect. 2005, in the Asturias principle, they approved the IMB, which was to write a project. It gave this economical support, but also gave tools to do this accompaniment of these people. And then in 2016, we had experience, 20 years experience managing this IMB. So MIS, the European Commission said to Spain, hey, coordinate yourself with the people of employment. They are going to be more efficient. And 2018, with all of this expertise and these recommendations that the European Union does to Spain, we deploy the first agreement of coordination between the CEPEPA, which is the Asturian coordination of employment, and the social services. Then we do 2 pilot projects, in which we start having some evidences in data about what's happening in our warranty of MIS. And first, we give some steps towards the coordination, which is our information coordination to speak to each other and start exchanging information. Because some things happened, like, for example, our users of minimal income systems were completely outside of the system. So it was important for them to be identified so that both systems understood each other and could incorporate all of these people to the active policies of employment that they were developing in the Asturias region. So these first coordinations and recommendations were the first step to see some of the things yesterday some people mentioned. We had some lack of clear procedures between the professionals, so the systems were speaking at a very high level. So professionals that were working with people didn't have a direct communication. So it was a very complex bureaucracy system. The system was very difficult. It was not very clear how this MIS was coordinated. And thanks to SHE2, which is the program, the Asturian program, we have seen we had a problem into timings about our MIS, people access to it, but it's very difficult for us to have these people back on the labor market. And later I will tell you, I'm going to tell you what people are going to work with from SHE2. We also have a very important numbers of non-take-up. We had some statistics, some numbers from the National Institute of Statistics that was saying that we had a huge number of people which were in very severe levels of poverty that for some reason were not acceding to this MIS system. SHE2 also wants to tackle a problem that we had identified in 3 specific regions. So we have coordinating problems in the territory. There are some resources which are not efficient. They are not used by the systems, and it's necessary that the agents are coordinated in the territory to be able to be efficient when giving these services. And in this sense, it was interesting to incorporate different assets that usually do not participate in the service development to these people, which is the area of the entrepreneurs. For example, we have incorporated an entity, which is the Confederation of Entrepreneurs, also a development company. And we have realized that we have serious problems of communication. This is the scenario that where we come from. And this is an area what we had proposed to the Commission, and with what we want to work from Shade to is to generate a new model of intervention for these people which are far from the labor market. And this means that we have to tackle quality matters, communication matters with these people. In the coordination system, it's something fundamental. We need to tackle this effectivity, like generate a new model of intervention for these people who are very far from this labor market. This means a lot of work. This is a burden, and rethink ourselves as a system. One of the key points of this is generating a pilot projects. We are going to intervene in 3 specific territories. Okay, so here's my map. In 3 specific territories in an area of Gijón, which is a different region from Asturias, with nearly 300,000 inhabitants. It's in La Calzada quarter, which, due to several situations, it has many people which are beneficiaries of some aids. Also in Mieres, which was an area that was working only in mining situation and mining sector, and they are facing many problems when it comes to the economy. And also in the Tineo region, which is very rural community of Asturias, because we have realized that the non-take-up, and this is one of the outputs of Shade 2, the non-take-ups in the rural areas are very different. The differences are very noticeable between them. So this is the partenariat we are going to work with. So we've done a partnership with the Public Employment Service, the Cruz Roja and Red Cross Asturias, Ministry of Inclusion, Social Security, Immigration, European Social Network, etc. So the project is going to take 30 months. We will finish in June 2024. But one of the key elements is how are we going to do this? And then I go to the users and I will wrap up. We will try to use tools that have already been developed in the ASI areas. So we have the people from the RCC that has let us some tools like the triage tools, because they have been already tested, they are working. So it did not make any sense that we generated tools from scratch. So we are going to try to work in the previous, I don't know how to say this, to give an agile response in prevention. Sorry, it didn't come to my mind this. So to give a fast answer, not wait the problems of people reach a point in which going back is difficult. We are trying to segment the users to participate in the project. The project is based in attention towards the person, to give personalized support. In this sense, we want to change the way in which the system had been working. It was like coffee with milk for everybody, like this is the same for everybody. We treated everybody the same way, but we are going to try to segment to be efficient when delivering services. And one of the matters which is important, it's all of the revision that we are going to do, the norm revision and the development of digital tools. We've been very analog, so up to this point it's very necessary that we have some professionals, IT professionals, that allow people to work in a coordinated way, efficient way, and to coordinate interventions. Am I late or okay? So which profiles Shade 2 is going to work with? Seeing the situation from which we started, we have discarded in the people that, for example, reach for the MIS just for one specific situation, but we're going to work with the non-take-up or people that find many barriers to access, for example, the labor market. We know typical cases where they find many barriers. I'm not going to put any example. Or also people that we do consider they've been for too long in the system without closer situation to the labor market. We have called them chronicle, but I don't like this word chronicle because something which is chronicle you cannot change, and we want to change the situation of these people. So we try to generate and reformulate the way we assess, we work with these people in a more tailored situation, and to generate a system which is sustainable into different terms, to change from this intervention scheme in which we spend a lot of time in not very intense interventions to do a new scheme on shorter intervention but more intense interventions which are more efficient, so to make these people get into the labor market or that they are socially activated. We are also trying to work in a focus on family, not only on the beneficiary but also the whole unit, supported by digital technologies to improve our interventions, to do some segmentation of the users, not coffee with milk for everybody, like to do in a tailored situation for everybody, and using all of these resources which are not optimized in the territory. I had a lot more to say, but we are very late. If you have any other question, later you can ask me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the project presenters. And now I invite you for, I think, a long coffee break, which will be combined with this Word Coffee type of activity, when you are invited to visit the different project promoters, not only those 3, but also the 5 pilot projects from Spain. So you are invited to come upstairs, and see you at 11:45 with the Minute group to continue our discussion in the group. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I think we should start with the last sessions of our meeting. I imagine that you all must be pretty exhausted already because we received so much information yesterday and this morning. So we are, but I myself, I would speak on just on myself that I'm also very excited to have you all here finally physically, because it has been like 2 years or 3 years moreover since we met last time in person. I already introduced myself, so I'm Katalin Satmari from the European Commission. And for the next session, we are going to present you the report, the joint report of the Commission and the Social Protection Committee, which you have contributed with country-specific informations. We will swap the order of the presentations compared to the agenda, because we found it more suitable to present first the report and then the provisions of the recommendation. And then we will have a discussion about the future of our network as a last item on the agenda. And I also have a technical announcement that I had this attendance sheet, and whomever has not yet signed, please come to me and sign this attendance sheet, because it is very important for the reimbursement of the travel expenses. So that's all, and I think we should start with the first presentation. I'm going to deliver this first presentation, which is about the joint report of the Social Protection Committee and the Commission on minimum incomes. You are already familiar with the report because on one hand you contributed to it, on the other hand in July at the last virtual meeting we already presented the report itself. So today I would like to focus only on the key messages which has been adopted by the Social Protection Committee since ever. Moreover, these key messages has been endorsed by the Council as well very recently. I think it was last week maybe, or 2 weeks before. And now the report will be published, so it will be available online. As soon as we will receive as soon we will put it on the website, then I will circulate the link to the Minute group, so you will see the report as available for the general public as well. So the first slide is just a reminder what is the structure of the report. If you can recall, we had a volume 1 which is more of a synthesis of the national practices, broken down into 6 chapters, and volume 2 where we have the 27 fishes for the 27 member states to describe the national design of the minimum income schemes. As you may recall, we have a longer version of those fishes as well, which will never be published openly for the general public. They will be just kept for our internal use of the Minute activities if we will see more Minute activities as of next year. Just very shortly, just recall what are the poverty challenges currently. We see that the at risk of poverty or social exclusion indicator has been improving to some extent, though it has increased again in the last 2 years. But at the same time, the poverty gap, which shows you how the depth of the poverty has been slowly increasing in the last decade, which gives us some challenges when we talk about minimum income schemes. And the next one is the same poverty challenges broken down by the member states. What we've seen in the last decade is that the income of the quasi-jobless households, which are our target group for the minimum income, has been lagging behind, while there has been some progress in the non-monetary dimensions like the material and social deprivation rate. I'm not going to spend too much time on these figures because those are available. What I'm going to discuss is more the key messages of the report, which you will see it correlates very much of our analytical work, and also most of those challenges will be addressed by the Commission proposal for the Council recommendation. The first of such challenges is the coverage. The coverage means the entitlement to participate in minimum income schemes. So it's not the actual administrative data who takes up the benefit and the participates in the minimum income schemes. But when we talk about coverage, we talk about how many of those who would be ideally potentially beneficiaries of the minimum income schemes. What we see from the SILC data that among those who are at risk of poverty and living in quasi-jobless households, 20% of those on average in EU level, 20% of them do not receive any income support, which means that there are significant problems with the non-take-up, as we have been discussing in the last 2 days already. But also there might be some other aspects which would limit the coverage of minimum income schemes, like for instance the low means test threshold, which has a role in accessing the minimum income schemes. We also have seen in the report that when in member states where the coverage is higher, normally the depth of poverty, that's the poverty gap indicator, is lower. So there is some kind of correlation between the two aspects, that if we reach to cover more people living in poverty and jobless households, then most probably the poverty gap indicator would be lower.